Okay, we are on the third button now. So that was the change link content. Just remember not to put the parenthesis after the function name. We are so used to doing it, you just have to remember not to do that. Because if you do that, the event will get fired right away. So then we have the button for, and that's going to be change. Okay, that's a lot of statements, which means that we have to go and test this one more time just to be sure that everything works fine. Okay, so let's try 30 pixel, change the size, 300 pixel by 200 pixel, works fine. I don't need that breakpoint. And then http://facebook.com. Don't care if the link doesn't work. I just want to be sure that I see the change. And when I click on it, it should take me to FB. There you go. Happening. Okay, click me should. Okay. Okay, we don't want the breakpoint. And then create should create those boxes, and remove should remove those boxes. Okay, all of the code that I did before, I just rearranged now. All I did was use these statements to tie in the click event with the change size event, with the functions. We use the add event listener. So an event listener is going to be there waiting for an event to happen. So it is going to monitor these buttons and see if there is a click event. It's going to call the correct function. You can think of it like a storage where it just keeps a list of like it maps button 1 click to change size, button 2 click to change shape, and then it is actually monitoring what is happening on these buttons. And then as soon as the click happens, it goes and finds the correct function to call if there is one. So that is what happens with an event handler. So now we saw like how we can associate one element with one event. So instead of this, you can also have multiple events on the same element if there is a reason to have them. Not click, so you could have like a change event, or you could have a mouse over, whatever it is. You could have multiple events on the same button or same element. Then we can also think about a scenario where we want to associate multiple say a similar event to multiple elements. Like for example, if you have similar elements, you want to associate that. So let me just I have a little example here that I just want to copy the code to. So when I post this lab, I'll make sure that this is there for you, so you don't have to do this part. So all I did was I added an input and another input here. So there's a label, there is an input, and then there is one more field here that you really cannot see. So see, there's another label here. So there is a label, input, and another label, input, another label. So that is what is there. So I just copied that. The other content I wanted to go over was what I want to go over now is when an element is there on the page, we saw how to associate an event listener. We also want to figure out how to associate for a dynamically created element. Like for example, this child element in the create square was created dynamically. How do I add an event listener to this guy? Just like how you would do for anything else. So you can add an element This is how you would add. So this doesn't have to be an anonymous function. Instead of an anonymous function, you can also give like a function name. Or if you have a function, you can give that function name. But I want to show you how to do anonymous function. Let's do an anonymous function here. So when I do this anonymous function, I just want to let you know that the reason why I chose this in this specific fashion is because I want to access the child element inside this function. If you think about it, we are taking this child element that is created, we are adding a click event to it, and I can't access this using document.getElementById because I never gave it an ID, right? There is this child element does not have an ID. So without an ID, how do we access this element? Because for example, when somebody clicks on that square, I want its background to change. So I want to change the background color. So how would I do that if this element does not have an ID? If it's the HTML, I can go and add ID. For dynamically created, either I have to add an ID here like child.id equal to, but what will that ID be? Every time a new child element gets created, I could add like 100 child elements, or rather children. Okay, so at any point in time, how can I say the ID is going to be something specific, right? So in order to avoid all that hassle, what we can do is you can use something called as this. This keyword points, so when it is associated, when we have an association, when it is done in this context of the child, this points to the child. If it is done in the context of the parent, it will point to the parent. So right now we are inside the event listener for the child, so that this keyword will point to the child element. We can say this dot style dot background color equal to yellow. So for the parent, if suppose for the parent element I want to do something, or for some other element I want to do something. So if for example, I'm going to delete this code, but if I want to do like for add event listener, when you click on the parent, I want to write a function where I access this dot style dot background color equal to black. When I do this, what happens is here this refers to the parent, here this refers to the child. So it depends on what context you are calling it. I'm not going to do this, so I'm going to delete it. So this is a keyword that can be used to refer to the object that in that context. So let us see how this works. Let us see what I'm saying. We can see it here, like here. So anytime you put a breakpoint on the event listener, remember that it will not hit this line right away. It will not go into this function till an actual click happens. So it will hit 84 but not 86. So let's see that. So when I click on create, it comes and adds, it creates a child called square. It adds an event listener called click with this anonymous function. When I click on the next line, it goes to the parent.